It's Lil Baby.
Welcome to Conversations with Chai. I'm your host, Ram Chaudhary, aka Lil Baby Ram Ram, and today I have returning on the couch. I have Sufi Malik.
Hey.
What's going on, fam?
Good, chilling. How are you?
How are you? I think just like to preface this conversation and kind of like intro it, right? Like you did the podcast in January, and you know, over the last couple of months, I've gotten the opportunity to develop my own individual relationship with you.
Yeah.
I've gotten to know you as a person. And obviously the last, whatever we want to call it, couple months has been life.
Yeah.
And I think that the reason that I wanted to, I reached out to you about doing this a long time ago. And we went back and forth on whether it would be a good idea, bad idea.
Yeah.
And I think from my perspective, like getting to know Sufi, like the person, I wanted to give everyone else the opportunity to know Sufi, the person, right? Because obviously the last couple months plus whatever's like has been going on in your life, like it's almost like reducing you to just like an internet personality or reducing you to a headline. But I know Sufi, the person and the human, and I kind of wanted to give everyone else the chance to see that. So fam, how you been?
It's been a year. It's probably been the worst year of my life, honestly.
It's been a year. And I know that it's been difficult, and we will get into all of that. But giving everybody the opportunity to know Sufi, the person, I don't think it starts with like this year, right? I think that people getting to know Sufi, the person, starts at a beginning.
Right.
And again, like I would like to ask you, like, what is that beginning in your eyes, right? Because I think the last time we talked, it was my first time getting to know you. So we glossed over a lot of larger points,
over a lot, yeah.
right? We had a quick hour, but here, like, listen, like we're going to have this conversation. We got 2 hours to just talk, right? And not leave anything out. Because like, I think me and you talked about this, like, this is like your opportunity to essentially give everybody like who is Sufi, the human, right?
Right.
So like when I think about that, like I think about like before all of this, before internet virality, before influencing, before headlines, right? There was a story to Sufi, right? And if I were to ask you like, what is that story from the beginning? How would you respond?
I don't know. I guess I can just start from, I grew up in the Bronx. I have an older brother and I have a younger sister. I grew up in a very like predominantly South Asian neighborhood. I went to high school like a 10-minute walk away from where I grew up, and so everything was super local. Like I didn't really go outside of my bubble.
It's like important, right? Because I think people like getting to know you, like the person, I like realize that like there's a way that people describe people on like the internet from like the influencer side, and there's like a certain personality, but knowing you as like a person, like you don't give that at all. Like you're like,
I don't want to, honestly. I don't think I ever want to forget who I am and where I came from. Like I feel like people, like I don't even want to call myself famous, but like people know of me, right? Like people don't know me, but they know of me. And I feel like sometimes people get to that point in their lives and they're just like, their energy shifts and they're like, oh yeah, like I'm gonna walk into the room and like I'm the shit and everybody's gonna pay attention to me. I don't like that.
and that's like something that I think like like people probably don't realize, because like when they see you, like obviously they see like content, they see, but getting to know Sufi, like the person, it's like you are the opposite of that, right? Like I'll like see Sufi at certain places, just like in the cut, like mad, like unassuming, just I stood next to Sufi like backstage at Mirage, and I'm like, I look over and I'm like, oh shit, it's Sufi.
For like 10 minutes.
I probably stood next to Sufi for like 10 minutes, right? But I think that's a good place to start and kind of like go into, right? Because like obviously like we talked about the first time you came on, like we talked about this, your virality, right? Or going viral, right? And something that I didn't know at that time, right? When we first originally had this conversation, that wasn't like a planned, hey, I'm trying to go viral.
Oh yeah, you didn't.
I didn't know that because I thought that,
Yeah.
you said like, hey, like we did you and your past partner like did a photo shoot and put it out. And when you said put it out, I assumed, okay, like we put this out from like a content perspective to go.
Yeah.
But what you've explained to me is that you just posted your engagement. It wasn't like I'm posting this to like develop content. I'm just posting like, yo, I got engaged. Like many people out there.
It wasn't an engagement.
It was
just like photos. Like it was just photos of us together that someone had shot.
And then?
Like the engagement happened like 2 years ago.
After.
Yeah.
So we talked about this.
So it was just a lot of assumptions, right? It was like this random reporter. I don't even know who this person is, but she changed the course of my life.
Because
she picked up the story from Instagram or Twitter, right? She went onto our profile. She like collected data. Oh, I'm Pakistani. XYZ person is XYZ.
Yeah.
And then like just created this whole narrative. And then wrote an article about it. And then other publications in India wrote an article about it. And then other publications in Norway and like the UK and like all these other countries. Like it just circulated. Like it was like in WhatsApp chain messages.
So where are you at that point in like life? Right? Because
I'm teaching art.
Okay.
I'm living in California.
Okay.
I have a very quiet life.
Okay.
Like, my friends know that I'm gay. Like my family doesn't know. Like not a lot of people know. Like my close friends know.
But you're not out.
I'm not out. No, I was outed from this
against your without
my consent. No like statements reviewed. Nothing. No permission asked.
So a random reporter
Correct.
takes your photo shoot.
Yeah.
And is like essentially just like puts you out there.
Yeah.
Okay, now once it's out there, like what is your initial reaction, right? From like a career perspective, but also what is you're now out, right?
I don't think I could think about career at that point. I couldn't. It was a lot. It was a lot. Like I just felt like
I gotta handle me being out now.
Yeah.
Which is something you weren't planning for, obviously.
Yeah, like, man, I've never spoken about this, but my mom was in Pakistan at the time. And she found out from the internet.
Okay.
So it was bad. Like, I'm getting calls from her and she's like, can I curse?
Yeah, of course.
She's like, what the fuck? Like, what's going on? Like, because I did have conversations with her about it before, but it's like so different when it's like the whole world knows, you know? So, yeah. And then she was like with my extended family out there. So that was bad too. Cause then like everyone has a phone now. So it's not like the 1800s. Like if it's like word of mouth, people are like, oh, it's just gossip, but there's like actual proof, So, yeah, her and I didn't speak for like a couple of years cause she was just not okay with, I think apart from her not being okay with it, it was also the fact that it was so public. Like, I feel like if it was just my life and like, I told her, like, she'd be like, oh, like, don't do XYZ, but like the impact would have been less.
Did she, so when you say that you and her had conversations about you being gay?
Yeah.
Like, so she did know or she like kind of.
It's tricky. It's like she knew, but she was just in denial. Like, okay. I think with brown parents, it's like, oh, this is a phase. Like,
So then you didn't get the opportunity to essentially like build that, like essentially have that conversation over and over again until you and your mom got on the same page.
Yeah.
That was kind of like robbed of you.
Yeah. So much.
So then how are you handling that part of it, right? Because obviously now like you and your mom now knows, your extended family knows.
Yeah.
Of course, your closest friends probably already knew, but now everybody knows.
Yeah.
And now what is the impact to like Sufi's mental?
In this current day, like today or at that time?
At that time.
I think it took me like 4 months to recover from that. Maybe even more. Like there were like some relationships that I have not been able to figure out, like with family. And some that have organically like grown stronger, like over the years. Like I'd say with my siblings. And I'm currently living with my mom, so like I'm back home for like extra support. So that's been really interesting. Like I think my mom like it now is like, yeah, okay, like she's gay. Like she's not gonna be straight.
Yeah.
Ever. Even though I think after the initial like I don't even know what to
Virality? The initial...
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or like the most recent one, I would say. I did come home and she was like, okay, like now you can make your life easier and like just marry a guy and have kids. And I was like, are you serious? Like we're so past this point. Like this is not happening. But
it's crazy. It's like in the moment of like my biggest crisis, it's like, Mom, are you serious?
Yeah, no, I know. I like honestly, like I feel like because I'm older, I kind of understand from her perspective. Like she really saw me hurting and she was like, I think I know how to make your life easier. Like here, take this suggestion. Whereas like I feel like if I was like younger, I would have been so mad. Like I would have been like, you're erasing my identity and blah, blah, blah. Which is like true, but like also from like a mother's perspective, like I get it.
Yeah.
You know? So
because she's looking at it like, again, like it's tough enough for South Asian parents to understand like internet and virality and things like that.
Yeah.
But she's looking at it from multiple perspectives, right?
Yeah.
It's like one, the accepting of like my daughter who's gay.
yeah.
Then it's also like, again, it's not because of the internet or virality, but it is a contributing factor to like, yo, my like child is hurting.
Yeah.
Right. So it's like, how do I then bridge that as like a mother, right? And that's like very, very difficult. And I think like talking about like that initial feeling towards the initial incident in terms of like virality, right? How are you then moving forward from that, right? Because obviously like you're dealing with now my identity is public.
Yeah.
But then it's also now my relationship is also public, right?
Yeah. Yeah. It was a lot. It was a lot for a very long time. It was a lot. Like I'm a very private person, like especially when it comes to like my relationships, like any interpersonal relationship. So I guess when I was put in this position, I was almost like at a turning point where I was like, oh, what is this opportunity and like what do I do with it? And I think I was very confused. And you know, like at the time I was with someone who understood it more than I did and saw potential in it. Which led to some beautiful opportunities and also led to my mental sanity declining slowly. I don't know. I also feel like it was just so much pressure to like have all of these young people look up to me and see parts of themselves in me and really feel like they can relate to me because of my intersecting identities, but then like not really know me and like who I am. And I just really felt like I needed to be perfect like all the time. Like I needed to have everything polished. Like I was just like, I can't be human on this platform. Like I can't.
Talk about that feeling, right? Because I think that people, again, even I thought, right, because you were developing or creating content after the fact that you asked for this, right? Like that's something you'll hear a lot of people say, right? Like you asked for this scrutiny, but realistically, you never asked to be the poster child for like South Asian like gay relationships, right?
I didn't.
You never asked to be the South Asian poster child for your community, right? You essentially had a relationship that went public.
Yeah.
Right? It's not like you were seeking out like, hey, I want to go public.
Yeah.
Right? So like I think that that's like talk about like that pressure, right? Because it is now, again, whether you wanted it or not, you have real publications, real people on the internet that are now like just looking at y'all saying, hey, y'all represent us. Right? In one capacity. And you're like, again, I'm just a person trying to have a regular relationship, have a regular life. But what does that pressure feel like as like a person, right? Like, what does it feel like from a palpable, like, hey, this is my life?
Yeah. It was like a double-edged sword, honestly. Like, it was pretty roller coaster up and down. I just felt like even in my overwhelmed moments, I was trying to trust that there is a reason and a process that, like, there was a reason that I was put in this position to help these people figure something out about themselves, even if I was the sacrifice for that. Like, and I don't know, I'm just being raw and honest here. Like, this is how it felt for me, you know? And I just felt like I couldn't be human about it. Like, I couldn't be like, oh my God, like, this is so much pressure. Like, I don't know what to do anymore. Like, should I stop? Like, should I not? And then I would open my DMs and like all these kids and even like older people, like I would even have like straight interracial couples like DM me and be like, hey, can you give me advice? Like, oh my God, like you're in an, I don't think someone from two religions being together is interracial. What is that called?
Interfaith.
Yeah. Interfaith relationships. And I was like, oh my God, people see hope in me. Like, I have to be this like beaming light of hope for XYZ audiences, people. Because like, these are real people, right? And I think that's what the audiences forget too. Like, I am a real person. Like, this is my life we're talking about. This is not a simulation. This is not a game. This is me waking up every day, living, breathing, surviving, you know? So, yeah.
I think people probably look at the virality and are probably only thinking about like, and again, like you're not even saying that, right? Like people are only looking at like the virality of like, yo, she gets all these like cool opportunities. She gets all these like brand opportunities now, right? But under all of that, outside of all of that is truly, yo, this is my real life, right? And I have now my life to manage on top of and outside of like my career to manage, right? And you also have a relationship now to manage that is, again, like it's like being in a relationship is difficult enough, but being in a relationship where like thousands upon hundreds of thousands of people are looking at your relationship is a whole different animal that I think for like the average person that they can't even comprehend.
Yeah.
Right? Because it's like, no matter what the stakes of a regular relationship are, the stakes with a regular relationship that are now 10x'd because of the attention on it, right, is a whole different animal. And that's like one that you had to essentially navigate for a long time, right? Like none of your relationship truly got to be developed, right, with your partner. And obviously now we're at a space where like people are like dissect. And again, like this is not a new thing for you where people are just dissecting your relationship left and right, right? That started from the moment that that reporter took this and took it public, right? So like going from that spot, how would you then describe that journey to almost where we are right now, right? In terms of like Sufi, like the person developing under the guise or under the scrutiny of the public.
I feel like I have taken my time to speak about this for a reason.
Mm-hmm.
To heal. To make sure that I am in a good place before I come and I sit on this couch and I talk about my life. 8 months. I haven't said anything. I've been working on myself. I've been trying to figure out what went wrong, where it went wrong, how it went wrong. And I feel like I've learned a lot of things about myself. And I feel like the thing I've learned the most is to never lose my self-respect and to honor who I am as a person, no matter what relationship, situation, context, setting I'm in. to trust myself, believe in myself, and like, you know, like honor myself.
Talk about that, because you took a lot of time, obviously, to speak on this, right? Like, this is something that, again, like wherever we want to like look at it, there's a portion, you know, like the public got to know of the end of your relationship. And then again, like your relationship has already been dissected by the internet since the beginning, right? But now a post comes out describing the end of your relationship, and then the scrutiny of your relationship is then taken to another level, right? And again, like as a friend of yours, right, my first thought when I saw that post was, how is Sufi, right? Because again, like people are gonna ask, people like knowing that you're doing even this, they're going to be like, oh, like there's accountability. That word is going to get just thrown around, right? Like, where's their accountability? But the thing is like you were, again, not asked for this public like relationship, right? But it got there. And then one of your lowest moments as a human is now like publicized for everyone to consume, everyone to analyze, right? And now you've taken a lot of time, I'm sure, with your friends, with yourself, to truly think about the relationship, the end of the relationship, right? And now asking you, like, how do you now look back at that? How do you look back at do you look back at the relationship differently? Do you look back at how you operated at the end of that relationship? Like, I think that the question that I would ask you is like, how did you A, feel, right, as this was going on, and then B, now looking back, like, is how are you looking at it?
Bro.
I'm sure.
I don't know how. That's a heavy question. How did I feel when it happened?
When it happened?
I was not okay. Yeah. I was not okay.
Take your time, G.
I'd say like I was not okay for like 3 months straight, like every day. I took a break from being on my phone, like even texting, because it would like give me so much anxiety. I didn't know what kind of text I would wake up to, who was saying what about me. Like, I don't know. It was just bad. It was really fucking bad, dude. It was bad. Like, it was bad to the point where like my family had to intervene, like my therapist had to intervene.
I think we, from like I can only, again, third party observer, right? Everybody sees, like, walk us through like the moments, I guess, like leading into that portion, right? Like the post itself, right? Because then what comes after, right, is horrible, I'm sure. Because people on public viewing, right? Like people are seeing all the comments.
The thing is, after the post was made, right, it didn't feel real.
Okay.
And then it felt really real, like in a day.
Talk about the not real time.
I was still around this person physically.
Okay.
So it kind of felt like...
Let's add context there, because you're human, right? People forget that your relationship did not end with a post. Like,
yeah, also people don't know that the relationship ended before the post.
Yes. Yeah.
Right?
Again, like people think that these are just like characters on the internet,
yeah,
right?
they think like, oh my God, like they just woke up and they were like, haha, this happened. Like it happened this very moment and we told you this very moment.
Yeah.
Like, no, there's a lot that happened before that. where unfortunately a lot of people were involved that were not supposed to be involved. And that fucked with a lot of communication that went on between XYZ and I. Honestly, I would, in those 3 months, I would wake up every day and I'd be like, it can't get worse. And it would get worse every
So it was
day.
3 months after?
Yeah.
After the post?
After the day, I'd be like, there's no way it can get worse. And it got worse every day that I thought that it got worse.
Because you're dealing with, I think that's like where, again, like you are dealing with obviously a breakup, which is everybody has been through, right? Which is difficult enough as it is. But you're also dealing now with a breakup where everybody and their moms that you may or may not even know
Yo, it was so crazy.
is getting input into your breakup.
I'm just gonna talk some shit, honestly.
Let's hear it.
There's this girl, like this random girl that I haven't seen in like probably 11 years. Okay. I somehow come across a tweet that she made talking about me. Like I went on one date with her. Where she was like, I remember going on a date with Sufi and she gave me fuckboy vibes. Blah, blah, blah. Just talking shit about, and I'm just like, first of all, what? That's insane. So it was like, it was bad because everybody rode on the wave. And they were having a lot of fun when they did it. They were having a lot of fun. And I'm going to remember that.
I think let's get into that because I think that's like the fucked up part, right? That's the real fucked up part, right? That people on the internet, for whatever reason, have this like moral superiority, right? Where they think that their shit don't stink, right? That they've never made a mistake in their life. The only difference between you and every other person that had something to say is the fact that your biggest mistake or your mistake was publicized. That is the only difference.
Yeah.
The person who made that comment, I'm sure has done a bunch of shitty things to a bunch of people.
Yeah, for sure.
Because the person who is comfortable writing that on the internet, I don't really strike that as like, that's probably a solid human being.
Yeah.
Right. And I think that, again, people looked at it as, oh, she made a mistake. We're all now able to dogpile it. But it's like, yo, you didn't do anything to everybody and their mom. You, again, like, I think that's where there's a difference between like people like to throw around the word accountability. There's accountability to the person that you're in a relationship with, but you don't owe. And I think that's where the internet is like, people think that they're owed some sort of like reparation because they observed your relationship.
Yeah, I mean, after the post was made, I realized that I was in a relationship with one person and millions of other people. That was my take.
What was the thinking on the post? Because I had I think my question was like, I think that because of, again, like being in the media entertainment space, whatever you want to call it, right? I think because you guys have a public facing relationship, and you guys did have content together, people needed to know that, hey, we broke up. But I don't think that anybody is entitled to know the reason as to like why you broke up or details of why you broke up. Right? So when I think about the post and somebody who, like knowing you, the person, I thought that was out of character for you to go and post.
The point is I wasn't thinking.
Mm-hmm.
That was not me. Like I was not thinking. I was in a very bad mental place. Very bad. I felt like damn, you could cut this out, but honestly can't believe I did that. I still shit on myself to this day.
Let's not cut it out. Why?
I just feel like I was so fucking weak in that moment. It was so bad. Like I felt so guilty. I was like, this is the only way that I can make things right. Like even if me and whatever is happening here doesn't work out, like I know I was in a bad place when I made the decision that I made. And I was at my lowest point and I was like, this is the only way. I was like, give me the scarlet letter, like let's go. And now in retrospect, I was like, oh, that was bad. That was bad. Like I remember one of my really good friends, called me from Pakistan like 2 minutes after I made the post, and she was like, what the fuck? What is going on? First of all. Second of all, delete the post. Third of all, leave this physical place that you're in. Like, leave from this place. Like, this is not good for you. And I wish I had taken her advice, but I think I just had to learn on my own.
In retrospect, why do you think now, like I have an idea, but why do you think that was a bad decision for yourself personally now, like months after the fact, like being able to look back, right? Like, because
I don't know. That's a really tricky question. Like, I wasn't on the other person's end, so I can't sit here and dictate how this person should have responded. Nor do I want to. It's not my process. And I know that people act and move in very different ways when they're hurt. But I don't think that I was allowed any grace. And like, this is me saying it from the perspective of everything the internet doesn't know. Okay, like, you know, as a friend, a lot that the internet doesn't know, and honestly will never know, from me at least.
I think that like, without even like having to get into it, right? Like, let's like clarify that for the internet, right? I think that people think because they are observing your relationship through a screen that they know your relationship or know dynamics.
I don't think my audience or whoever knows about me like knew anything about my relationship.
So, say that. That's real. Because I think
nothing.
I think that's real.
Like, apart from the fact that
we post pictures together.
Nothing. Like, nothing.
I think that's real. Because I think that people are able to, because you use the term, right? And it's a term that me and you have talked about a lot, right? Which is the scarlet lettering of you, right? You were essentially offered, and your mistake was offered to the public, and then that was supposed to be the catch-all explanation for your entire relationship.
Which is so fucked, because like, how can you reduce like any form of like relationship to
a singular,
a
singular moment?
To me, that's not even how I think of it. Like, I don't think of, like, yes, now when I think of what happened, I can only remember all of the bad that happened when it ended. I can't even think of the good that was there. Like, I'm not there. But that's not what it was. Like, adult relationships are so layered, like, and so that's why I'm like, who are these people? Like, are they kids? Like, have they ever been in a long-term relationship before? And like, I'm not here to make excuses for anything. And I think that I have made that clear with speaking about it and then not speaking about it and coming on this couch, right? Like, I'm not here to not take accountability. Like, everybody already knows everything, So I just feel like I was the villain, man.
I think that's so, again, like you said, like people, again, we keep using the word accountability. And I think that people want to see a public execution, but they don't really care for the real accountability.
No, they don't. They had a lot of fun doing that, honestly. I feel like people had a lot of fun watching everything go to shit, not gonna lie. Like,
I think that's probably, I know like that's like tough, right? But I think that's encapsulates probably where as a society, where are we, right? Because like people took like, again, if we took everybody's lowest moment or lowest mistake and then we all just danced around it and danced on the grave, we would look at that and be like, why are we doing that, right? But because, again, people aren't looking at you as like a person, but more so just like somebody they see on the internet or a headline that they read, right? It's easier for them to do it, right? Like, it's easier because that's where the dehumanization of Sufi the person was happening, right? And has happened for a long time, right? I think like the ugliest comments, right? Like again, like because we did a podcast before, right? People are going back and looking at things and like saying like no care for like the individual people, even no care for like your previous partner. It's not really about y'all relationship. It's just an excuse for reason people on the internet to be able to dance on something, to look at somebody's mistake and be like, yo, like, look at this person, like they're flawed.
Yeah.
So are all the rest of y'all.
Yeah.
And I know, I know that that's probably frustrating.
Whatever, I'm over it.
Are you over it?
Honestly, I feel like in a couple years, will get to a point where I'm going to be like, what was the silver lining here? And I think I am realizing some of it. Like, you know how in the beginning of the podcast, I was like, oh my God, it's like the worst year of my life. Like, yes, it has been. But there also have been silver linings that I have been honoring and that I'm so grateful for. The people who are not in my life, they can stay where they are. Like, I'm so grateful for that. Like, whether you were friends or community I made with whoever I was with at the time, like, I just feel like there was no space for accountability and then like humanization. Like, you know, like, I'll give you an example, okay? You as my friend, okay? You fuck up morally and you do something that I don't agree with. I will not just cut you off because that's who I am. I'll be like, yo, dude, you fucked up really bad. Like, here's my advice. Take it. I'll be there to support you. Let me know when you need me. But I'll let you know that I don't agree with what you did. So what happened with me was there was a lot of information that was given to people that were not in the relationship. And then those people took that and came up with their own stories and their own conclusions and their own like, yeah, this person is like horrible. Like,
I want to
Sufi killed XYZ. Sufi is going to just be like annihilated from all of these spaces and blah. Like, okay.
I want to clarify because I know that you're talking about, because I want to clarify, you're no longer talking about just general people on the internet. You're talking about people you truly...
I'm talking about people that I was in relations with, like people that were my people.
Thought were your people.
That I thought were my people, correct. Who left me at my lowest, which means they were not my people.
Let's talk through that, right? Because the analogy that you gave, right, is that like, again, like my friends, your friends, like everybody who's a human, our friends, people who have been in our lives long enough to see it, have seen us fuck up, right? That's like the marker of friendship, right? Is to be able to look at somebody good and bad, right? But you're talking about now, like, yo, people that you thought were your people, looking at just a moment of bad and then boxing you in. Because like, of course, like the internet boxing you in, right? That's like a whole, like, yo, at the end of the day, it's like some random person you'll never see. But your own people...
I think that hurts more, for sure. The latter hurts more, for sure.
The friends.
Yeah. The friends.
The friends.
The people.
Talk about that. So did you feel like unilaterally people were taking a side?
There were just a lot of optics, for sure.
At play.
There were a lot of optics at play. Like, a lot.
Were you aware?
Of course I was aware. I was awake throughout the whole part of it. I never slept. I've been awake. I've been seeing. I'm like, not to be like Halloweeny and weird, but I saw everything.
Talk about the
happen
optics.
The way that it did.
Talk about the optics, right? Like, I think from like we talked about like how, again, like as a viewer, I saw it, right? But like as this goes and then your life changes, right? You're observing now, obviously people on the internet, but now you're observing your own people, right? What are those optics that are at play from your past partner, from former friends, right? We got to air quote friends every time here, right? But what are those optics at play? And then how are you now mentally looking at it and being like, yo, do I have to now move differently?
Yeah, for sure.
How so?
limited a lot by a lot the time and energy I give to people and who I give it to. I spend a lot of time with myself now.
It's a trust thing, right? I think that's the part that people like realize that like your own, of course, like your trust is also now broken in other people that like, hey, like I never thought they would switch up on me the way that they did.
Yeah.
Right. But now you're seeing that too. Again, things that are lost with when we just continuously like look at people as just like internet, right? That you're losing real relationships with people. Right. And at the same time, like not to take away from that, right? Like you're also mourning a relationship.
Yeah.
Right. Like, of course, like now, like we can like look back, but like you're also.
I think
like,
that's what people forget, you know, like it was a lot of years. It was my youth, you know, like the time that I spent with this person, and it was my life. Like it was my whole world at one point. And I think people just forget, like, you know, I was at my lowest point. I made a bad decision. And, like, that doesn't mean that everything else that happened before that wasn't real and that I wasn't in it, you know?
I think people like, we look as a first, this is just an observation on our society. As our society, like we look at like cheating as like the worst thing that you can do to a person, right? And it's like, don't get me wrong, it's a horrible thing. It's like a break of trust, but it doesn't, we also look at that almost as like an erasure of all the good, right? Like you said, like adult relationships are multi-layered, right? Like there's things, any person who's been together with somebody like long term, right? There's shit underneath. Right? There's things said, there's behavioral patterns, right? There's real things outside of individual. People think it's all good and then just one bad moment.
Yeah, I just feel like the world acted like you cheated and then like you like killed someone and then it's like, oh yeah, like Sufi cheated and everybody was like, ah. And then if it was a guy, they'd be like, oh shit, like damn, fuck, he cheated, like he's a horrible person. And that brings me to a point that I was thinking about before I came here, where I was like, the post went beyond the people that knew of us. So it was bad. Like the gravity of the situation like increased, like New York Times, E! News, like all of these publications. And it happened very quick because people love gossip. They love it. They love drama. They're gonna like misery loves company, right? So when I first went viral, right, for what I did, there was a lot of like Islamophobia, homophobia, and like hate, and you know, just like death threats, and then it happened again. Like that going through that part was really bad. Like that affected my mental health very, very badly, and it was a nightmare. And then it happened again, but like worse, like 5 years later, right? And then this time it was like lesbophobia, like, oh my God, you're a lesbian, you're such a piece of shit, like you cheated, like all lesbians are the same. And then the Islamophobia came back from like everybody in India that was mad, right? Like
as if you had like, done an action against them specifically.
Honestly, like I read this one comment. There are some people that were comparing me to what's that one cricketer? What's his name that like cheated on his wife and then like he's Pakistani and his wife is Indian, and they were like,
Imran Khan?
Pakistanis are the same, like.
Imran Khan?
No.
Just cheating on Imran Khan, like
no.
The only Pakistani cricketer that'd be like
Sania Mirza's ex-husband, whatever his name. I think his last name is Khan.
Okay.
Whatever, I don't know this dude, but yeah. So there was that factor, and then it was the Islamophobia too, and it was just like, and then I started getting death threats again. I was like, whoa, okay, like this is happening. Like, how long is this like wave gonna go on for?
Are you seeing? Again, we're talking about like silver linings. Are you seeing people at least step in to protect that part of Sufi, the person?
Like which people?
Ex, former friends?
No.
You're not seeing like like let's leave this out of it?
I'll tell you what, my family really showed up for me, which is insane. Like, I've always had like a very complicated relationship with my family. I think even apart from like me being gay and them being like, yo, what does this mean? But yo, they were there. Like, and they still are. And I'm grateful for that. You know? Like, I feel like I had a very like negative and skewed idea of like what blood family is and like what and not to like, you know, invalidate anyone else's experience, but you know, I think this year and this situation really like redefined my idea of community and what that looks like. Yeah, so like I'm closer to my mom now. I take her to the gym.
Aw.
It's nice.
I think that the because the word community, especially in like social media places, right, on the internet, is so easily thrown around that we think that we know what that means, right?
Yeah.
Like we think that community is like a bunch of people that follow an individual like person or a bunch of people that are a part of whatever, right? But like true community is like people seeing good, bad, and being there.
Being there, yeah.
Right? Like your community, like when you think about like, again, like if we take this like way back before social media, like again, my parents were from like a village, right? Like in the village, there was community, but if somebody in the village or community made a mistake, it wasn't, okay, you now have to like leave the village forever, right? It's okay, like we have to figure out a solution for our community to like move forward, right? Whereas like people essentially just tried to like, and this is like the problem, right? Like with scarlet lettering, it's like people essentially said like, okay, like go away now, right? Like we had our fun with you. We got to like dance on the grave, right?
And I did.
Go away now, right?
And
you did, but you're here.
But I'm here, but I'm not going back wherever that was.
No, but that's different, right?
Yeah.
People wanted you to like go off and like into the darkness and never hear from you again.
Yeah, you know what's so crazy? There's this... It was just insane. Like, I think about it now and I'm like, wow, people said some like really mean shit to me. Like, that's crazy. Like, I could never sit down on my phone and write stuff like that about someone I didn't know, even if I did know them.
I think that's, again, people forget that on like the internet, right? That like, yo, there's a person. They think that like, yo, I leave this comment and might get a couple likes, but like the person who's it's about isn't gonna, bro, like you've seen them.
Yeah.
You've seen them, you've had to read them, you've had to like see those vile things like being thrown at you.
I'm just like, yeah, I feel like I was coming from a place of hurt for a long time, but now I'm just like why did you do, like I'm like what, like I'm almost trying to look at it objectively where I'm like, yo, like why would you say that to me? Like, let's have a conversation. You know, it's just crazy because like, and I'm going to continue to say this, like, I'm real. Like, I grew up in the Bronx. Like, if you want to say something, like, come say it to me. I think I shared this story with you where, like, I went to the, like, halal fest and, like, I was hanging out with a friend and then she posted a story of me and this guy DM'd her, like, a couple weeks before. And he was like, oh, haha, like, you're hanging out with a cheater. And then she was like, you know, she, like, told him off. And me and her are hanging out and this guy's walking towards us with his mom. And I'm already pissed off that day because, like, I'm just, like, every time this is spoken about, the situation is spoken about by someone else on the internet, I continue to get hate. And this has been happening for months now. So even when I am trying to be like, okay, like, let's move on, you know, so we're at this food fest and this guy, he's walking towards us and I'm like, I'm tired of this. So he comes up and he says hi to my friend and he doesn't even look at me. He doesn't say hi to me. So I go, hi. He's like scared. He's like, hey. I'm like, so you called me a cheater? He's like, what? Me? No, I didn't say that. I don't even know I didn't say blah, blah. And he's just like shaking in his boots. And I'm like, are you sure you didn't call me a cheater and you don't know me? Blah, blah, blah. And he was with his mom. His mom is like, she's like an auntie. She's so confused. She's like, what's going on? And it's sad that I had to get to that point. But like, I'm just done. I'm done. Like, this is not happening no more, you know? Like, I'm honoring myself. And then, yeah, so he denied it. So he walked away. I was like, okay, cool. Like, you didn't say it. Like, I believe you. And then my friend like actually shows me the DM after, and it's like exactly what she said verbatim.
Again, like people, you asked like why people do it, right? And I think it's because people it's very easy for somebody to type something and be like, yo, I just got to put it out. It might get a couple likes, but I'm never going to get blowback on it, right? Because it's, especially when the mistake that people are talking about, it's so easy because nobody, like, they're not expecting anybody to come to Sufi's defense in that moment. Right? Like nobody's like, they're not expecting like for you to even defend yourself in that moment. They want it to be that, hey, because the reason that they label you that, right? Like, oh, why are you hanging out with a cheater to your friend about you, right? Is because if they label you that, they can then speak to you and speak about you in whatever which way, and nobody can say anything because they can justify it in, oh, but she's a cheater.
They can't do that anymore.
They're never able to do it, because then again, if we're all just labeled by our worst mistake, then oh, it's the guy who don't call his mom,
right?
Oh, it's the guy who like leaves his friends on scene every single second. Oh, it's the like if that's how we were truly labeling people as a society, we just wouldn't ever function. But because
that falls into cancel culture, right?
Yeah.
Like I have a very like different perception of cancel culture now. Like I think I kind of did before too, but now it's like, you know, even more developed. Like where I'm like, oh, like okay, yeah, where's the accountability? But also like this person is a human. Like where are the conversations? Like where's the empathy?
Are there conversations that you wish you could have had at that time
with who?
Like people.
The people that are not in my life anymore?
Yeah.
No.
You had no, like, I want to have a conversation about this. Why is that?
They made their decision and they can stick to it.
When you say that they made a decision, right? Like, but the decision being to what? Cancel?
Yeah. Put me in a box, cancel me, make all these assumptions, not see me as a human, not check in on me, play optics. They could stay where they are. I don't want to have a conversation with anybody that does that. So
because you opened up the conversation about cancel culture, right? At my pushback or my dialogue with you would be that for us to have those conversations, we have to have those conversations. Meaning that if we want there to be additional dialogue and context about anything that's posted or any like situation, right? Like the people that are involved have to talk about it, right? Like again, like a big part of like why I wanted to do this podcast, which me and you have gone back and forth on whether we should do this, shouldn't do this, what have you. Months, right? And the reason I wanted to is because of that conversation and dialogue that I think needs to be had, right? I think that people, again, this needs to be more than just a singular post, right? A singular post that encapsulates an entire relationship. This needs to be more than a bunch of troll comments on every single post after the fact by your former partner, right? It needs to be more than that. And the only way that it's more than that is if we hear from Sufi the person, right? Because I think I don't know if you viewed it the same way. The reason I was like, yo, like I wanted, because this, I'm always very scared about this becoming like a TMZ gossipy type podcast, right? Because it's like never the one that I wanted it to be, but I always wanted it to further a real conversation. And I was like, the only way that we further a real conversation is by having you talk openly and candidly about the situation, because for people to see the other side, they have to hear from the other side, right? And I think like where people are going to come in, right? I would say like, yo, like whatever you would say to those people in the troll comments, I would open that dialogue to real faces, real people that you knew. Because I get that they made their decision, right? But like you deserve to be heard, right? I'm good. I feel like it's too late. I feel like I'm moving past that part of my life. I don't want to have those conversations. To those people. Correct.
I can have those conversations with people like you objectively about what happened, but I do not want to have those conversations with those people.
So we're having it, right? If we were to have that conversation, like, is there anything that you would want people to know, or would you want to say about that situation to give additional context to not even those people, to anybody listening, viewing, paying attention to you, New York Times, right? Like, what additional context would you provide? Because I think that's what people like truly want to know, right? Is like, from Sufi's perspective, is there stuff that we should know? Because again, like a lot of like the narrative building is without your voice included.
There's a lot of things that you should know, but I'm not that type of person, so you're not going to know it.
I think that the not knowing, right? Because again, right? Like
I just think it goes really deep, and I feel like I'm going to open a can of worms, and I don't want to do that.
Can of worms of who?
Like, just what it was.
What the post was, or what the relationship was?
Everything. Like, everything leading up to the post. Because for me, the post was the end.
For you, the post is the end?
For me, the post was the end.
Okay.
Like, yeah. For me, when millions of people know, I'm like, okay, yeah, like, this is the end. Like, how are we going to come? There's no coming back from this. That's
Before
crazy.
that, did you want to?
I mean, it was a long relationship.
You wanted...
Apart from it being a long relationship, it was love at one point. Right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, it was love at one point. As weird as it is to say.
That's not weird.
It's weird.
That's not weird. That's not weird. People, again, like people want to make...
So hard talking about
I got you, G.
I hate this.
Listen.
Boo.
It's not weird, right? Because like love is layered. People think that if you like love some, like again, like we talked about family. Let's take it out of like relationships, right? Like love is weird. Like I know I love my parents and I know my parents love me, but I also know how much bullshit we put each other through.
Yeah.
Like in terms of my family, forget a relationship, right? But again, like that's what love is. Like I can look at like, trust me, the things that I've done to some of my like best friends is like, if I said it individually, people would be like, wow, that's awful.
Yeah.
But those are like my best friends. And you know, like both ways. But again, I love them, right?
Yeah.
And I think that that's like important to like add context, right? To say that like, yo, just because again, that's a narrative that people are going to paint unless you say that. People are going to say like, oh, she never loved her. It was just for social media.
That's insane. That's not true.
Of course not.
Yeah. That's crazy.
Of course not. Right? But that's the narrative, right? Because that's a narrative that's, again, easy to paint and just lacks human
Honestly,
context.
to me, the social media part was like at the bottom of the barrel when it came to
your priorities.
The dynamic that I had with XYZ.
Explain.
I don't know. I just think it goes back to the whole like I'm really private with like my relationships where I was like, oh yeah, haha, like all these people see this really cool like representation in us, but like I'm living the actual life. So to me, this dynamic is the priority and not how it's shown on the internet.
So what is your tangible approach to that, right? Because people, again, like probably will look at it as like, okay, like you developed content around this, right? But how are you?
But to be fair, like we did pivot. There was a point in our lives where we pivoted from relationship content. Mm-hmm. Like if you look at the trajectory, like for the last 2.5 years, like there wasn't a lot of relationship content, you know? So
people's narrative on that is going to be, oh, they were dwindling, which is why they didn't put out relationship content.
They can do what they want with their narrative.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I'm not concerned about what people have to say anymore. Like I've read everything I needed to read. Mm-hmm. But like, I think I also want to make a point about like how my family was involved in this.
Okay.
And how I feel like I really like regret that. Like
what do you mean?
Sister, like my sister being involved in like
Involved how? I'm unaware.
yeah, and like essentially like our like online persona, like taking her in and like us being like a family and you
Like
know.
developing her into a character.
No, not really. I feel like that's not what happened. At least on my end, that's not what happened.
Okay.
Like, no, that's not what happened on my end. That's crazy.
What do you mean then?
But is that what happened? No.
What do you
I
mean?
don't know.
Like,
I'll tell you.
Yeah.
When you have an audience and you speak about someone to your audience that you know in real life, like people become aware of them, right?
Yeah.
So people knew who my sister was. They still know who she is. So when everything happened the way that it did, people started dragging my sister. And I was not okay with that.
Okay.
Right? Like they were involving her in very negative ways. And I was just like, whoa, this is crazy. Like I need to take a step back. I need to figure out like what I want to do with this. So then that's when I took the break because yeah, there were just these like crazy narratives put out like Sufi is an orphan and Sumbo is an orphan and like XYZ's like family took her in like and like she was living with them. This is all
Narrative.
This is all narrative, by the way.
Yeah.
Like there were beautiful moments shared with these people. And you know, I will cherish them. But nobody paid my bills. And I took care of my sister and the person I was with at the time also took care of my sister. But like it was just so messy. Like
How are you, like, again, like this is like me asking you, like you're seeing obviously like people pull your sister in, pull you into like their own made up narratives, right? But you know like your truth, right? Like how are you looking at this person saying it? Because like, is it an immediate disqualification being like, yo, like, because I'm thinking like, yo, you know it's not true, right? So like, who is painting then this narrative that, and B, like, I would ask like, why would we listen or give any credibility or credence to it?
yeah, no, I get that. I think it's hard to explain. I think the thing is like, I was just not okay with like people coming at my family for a bad decision I made.
Again, it's like you didn't sign up for this, but also like nobody around you signed up for it, right? Like nobody around you, like your sister, your mom, like nobody signed up for them to then be chastised or criticized for a human moment that's so irrelevant of them, honestly.
Yeah.
Like no action is, especially an action that's not taken by them, gives anybody the ability to say anything about them.
Yeah, I think because like before the post, it was really hard for me to talk about my family. So people assumed that my family was just completely out of the picture, which is not true. Right? Like I had a complicated relationship with my family, but that doesn't mean they weren't there, you know, in whatever capacity that they were. Like my dad's side of the family were always there. Like my grandma, like my grandma knows I'm gay. Like everybody knows because of the post, right? Like because of the original viral post. So like even before like this most recent post that happened, like I'd hang out with her and she'd be like, look, I just want you to be happy. And then sometimes I go and she's like, when are you getting married to a guy? You know, so it's like, it's flip-floppy and like, you know, they'll be like, oh, we know like people are talking about you in the neighborhood, but like we still love you and we care about you and like we're always going to be there to support you. You know, so it's like, I wasn't alone.
People try to oversimplify, like, and again, like, it's a better narrative for other people if they are able to paint that about you, because then it just gives more, how do I describe it? Like almost like more sympathy to another side, or like more vilification of you, right? If they're able to say these things, because then it's like, oh, like
fair, yeah, I get that.
It's like the action, like it's fucked up because people will take a negative action. It's like, yo, how can I vilify this person further to make a more like compelling villain, right? Like they have to give you reasons to make it even worse, right? Things that aren't true.
Yeah.
Because if everybody around you said the reality, which is like, yo, Sufi's like a good sister or Sufi's a good friend, right? It wouldn't fit the narrative of like, oh, that person is a cheater.
Yeah.
But again, like those are still true, right? Like nothing that like I think that's what gets lost, right? That action does not take away from the fact that you are a good sister or a good friend, right? It doesn't take away the potential for those things to also be true.
Yeah, because two things can exist at the same time. Like two truths can exist at the same time. And I feel like general people on the interweb don't see that. Or, I mean, I don't know. It's just really interesting because I see all of these comments from people and then I have real conversations with people that I don't know about the situation, and their responses are so human and like
I think that's why we take this conversation. I think we take out that internet piece because I get it, right? Like I get that, yo, it's annoying, but you have to remember, like we said that we talked about this outside of this situation.
Yeah,
we talked about like, yo, internet trolls are always gonna internet troll.
Yeah,
especially if you give them any shred of a reason. Fuck that, right? Like we dealing with like real people. Like I think that's like the important part for like people to realize, like, yo, outside of this podcast, like, yo, me and you have had like a real conversation about this off of this.
Yeah, more than one.
This shit is more for y'all.
Yeah.
Honestly.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, yeah, like people think like, oh, like you think I'm checking in on Sufi now months later?
No.
Right? Like, like you know what I'm saying? Like like people have to remember, like this shit is like, and again, like people look at it as these are like characters in like a WWE like arena, right? Like we're like building these characters and we get to like talk about their like lives openly. But the reality is like these are real humans and real lives are happening here.
Yeah, I'm just thinking about how like you in the beginning you said when you saw the post you were like, yo, how is Sufi like the person? That so many of my like friends that are close to me and also not close to me were like, when we saw that post we were like, Sufi's not okay. Like, is she okay? Like, is this who she is? Like, this is not who she is, you know? So it was evident to a lot of people, even outside of my circle.
It's tough.
Yeah.
It's tough. People, bro, like, I didn't even see, like, again, like, I didn't even see it, but multiple people sent it to me and were like immediately trying to get tea.
Yeah.
And I'm like, fam, that is not what people literally hit me like on our Instagram on the conversations page, like, yo, like you gotta ask Sufi. I'm like, dog, you think that's what right now?
Yeah.
You think that's where Sufi's at? Where I'm about to go be like, yo, come give me the tea. Right? But again, like people have like, again, so self-interest driven. People are only in it for their own entertainment. Like, again, like I think a lot of it is like people like to hide it under the fact that they're like supporting your former partner. But a lot of it is like, yo, we just here for the bullshit. Right? Like a lot of them just hide it under like, oh, we're showing care. Right? But it's like, yo, no, real care is you hitting that person and actually individually supporting them. Right? Or you hitting Sufi and individually asking. That's real care. Real care is not an internet comment saying like, yo, we support you, but like, yo, give us the tea. Or, yo, you need to talk about this more.
Yeah.
Right? Like, even like the people who promote like, yo, you got to talk about this more. It's like, why is that? Is it like, it's some part of your own brain that needs that part of it scratched, right? Because again, like you should only be caring about like the individual person. But that human element completely gets taken away, especially under any form of that. Do you now like look back? Like, would you like, obviously like you wouldn't look back at that post and be like, yo, I'm doing that again.
I don't think I would ever put myself in that situation again.
That's also fair.
Yeah, like y'all are never gonna hear about who I'm dating.
Has that actually actively changed? Do you think that like, of course it's actively changed. Do you think that like I think it's obvious, yes, but do you think that it had an impact on the actual relationship?
Relationship with who?
Your former partner.
What do you mean?
Like the attention, like again, like you.
Like being like, yeah. Imagine like you and the person you're dating are like on the internet all the time and everybody's like, we love you guys, like don't ever break up, like like, I've had people come up to me and like trauma dump and be like, I grew up watching you. Like, you guys are the best. Like, don't ever break up. And I'm like, whoa, okay, yeah. Like, I can't do this. Like, so yeah. Also, it's like, you know, a lot of people say like mixing business with pleasure is never a good idea. And I think working with someone you are seeing and in a relationship with can very much so complicate a lot of things. I don't recommend it. Don't do it in any capacity. If you can stray away from it, I think it's also like the media aspect of it that makes it harder. You know, like if I was an accountant, like maybe it'd be easier because I don't have like millions of people watching over me. But yeah, again, like this is like not everything was negative, you know, like
I don't think that like that we should reiterate, but I don't think that anybody would or you're ever going to say that.
Yeah.
Right? Like you like you know what I'm saying? Like because that's like an insane like, oh, like what? Like you were just like play acting like for an entire like that's not the reality.
No, there were like it was real, right? Like that was my life at one point. It was
like,
real. That
was
my
I was just
real
engaged
life.
to somebody because y'all needed content?
Yeah. So I mean, yeah.
Like people think like, oh, like she was just like they were just doing it because we needed like they needed content. It's like, fam, like that's not like this is my real life. Like who I'm with, what I'm doing, this is my real life. Like after the internet stuff goes away, this is like I'm still left with this is my life.
Yeah, I feel like you're right when you say like people just think we're like characters, like in a game or like in a movie, you know?
I think
it's so weird.
I think it's like tough for maybe you to like really see that because like we think about that like when we think about like whoever like Liam Payne just passed away, right? So like you know what I mean? Like everybody gets to dissect his life as if he's a character because he's this massive celebrity,
so
right?
Sad.
But yeah, exactly, right? Like it's like, yo, you forget that person has a mother, that person has a father, right? Like you think that all these internet narratives about what his mental state was or what drugs he was taking, you think that's productive to anybody in his real life? Actually, that shit is only for like entertainment consumption.
Yeah.
Like I think about everybody who does like reaction like videos to like people's like death announcements and things like that. It's like, yo, that's only for y'all.
Yeah.
Right? Like that's only like and I think the hiding of that under like whatever news, it's like what are you reporting on here?
Yeah.
Right? Like you speculating on like the relationship that he had or whatever, right? Is just a poor excuse.
I feel like people just don't know how to mind their own business.
Are you choosing to speak about this now with me? This many months later.
I feel like I wanted it to be an organic conversation. And I wanted it to happen with someone I know and trust and someone who has context. I didn't want to make it into like a content thing. I mean, this is content, but like I didn't I don't know.
I think something that you've said to me off camera, right, is that, and I think like I really wanted you to get this point across, is that like this is your real life. You are a real person. And I know you said it, like, yo, the comments on the internet are annoying, right? But they're more than just annoying, right? They have real implications on your own mental, right?
Yeah.
Like, I think that part of it, I would like for you to talk about, right? Because again, this is not like you're still here. Like Sufi, the person, is still here, right? Like you have, like you have to show up and be a good sister. You have to be a good Sufi.
I honestly didn't think I'd make it, not gonna lie. I didn't think I was gonna make it. I didn't think I was gonna make it to 8 months.
Talk about that.
Damn.
What's that journey, right? Like once you look around and realize, hey, everything around me is maybe broken or everything isn't burning or in shambles, right? You have to now look at, how do I fix this? And by this, I don't mean a relationship, or I don't mean your image on social media, right? How do I fix my life, my real life? What was of course, I'm sure there's friends and family involved, right? But what is your approach to that?
Yes, there are friends and family involved, but honestly, the real work happens when you're by yourself. Like when you're alone. And I think that I always had a hard time being alone. And maybe it's why maybe it's why I made the mistakes and the bad decisions that I did, because I was scared to be alone.
I'm going to tell you something, right? Because you've been sharing with me. I absolutely understand that.
Yeah.
Like, as somebody who, like, again, like, it's not like a secret, and it's like that's why this conversation is like tough for me to have, right? As somebody who has like cheated, right? I realize that a big part of that is that fear right there. That fear that if this person that I'm with leaves me and I have to be alone, my mind can't handle that, right? So I need to have a exit parachute. I need to have emotional space from that, right? But the understanding that about yourself and learning that is a difficult pill to swallow, I'm sure, right? Because you have to look at, again, like, it doesn't even really matter that all these people think that, right? Like, who gives a fuck at the end of the day about everybody else's opinion? But how do I look at myself in the mirror, right? And how do I view myself, right?
Yeah, honestly, I think, and this is what I haven't spoken about, but you know, the guilt really ate at me for like a while. Like, and you know, every time I think about it now, it's still heavy. Like, it was bad, you know? And I feel like, again, like, I feel like there was this narrative created where it was like, you know, oh, like, Sufi did this horrible thing and now she's just gonna live her life and she's happy and the other person is miserable, and that's just how things are. But like, I did that healing on my own. Like I dealt with that on my own, and I'm proud of myself for that. And I know, and honestly, like, I feel like this time in my life made me strong because, again, I value myself so much more. That's what I was saying in the beginning, where I was like, I'm happy being alone. I never thought I'd say that. I had such a hard time, like, growing up and then being in like a long-term relationship. Like, I was just like, I need this. Like, this is what I need. I don't need anything.
I think that's like again, like, I think that's what like God kind of gives you, right? It's like the thing that you fear the most, right? Like, he's going to make you face it one way or the other. He's going to keep showing you a different challenge until you deal with the underlying thing, right?
Yeah.
Like, I realized like everything that like happened negative, right? It was always a combination of the same.
It's so hard to see it in the moment. But then like, and that's what I was saying when I was talking about silver linings. Like, this is a major silver lining of this year. And then another one is, this is going to be funny, but it's working on my mommy issues. Like, I moved out of home when I was 17.
Mm-hmm.
I did not go back home. Like, I supported myself all those years. I just turned 28 this year and I'm living with my mom. I'm back at home, like living with my mom. Like, that's full circle. Like, something needs to happen there. Something needs to heal there that I am not understanding, or kind of am understanding now. And like, when it's time for me to move on, like, I will. It'll organically happen the way that it needs to. But for right now, I need to be home. Like, and I'm seeing some of the reasons why, you know, because sometimes I ask myself, I'm like, man, everything just really like went upside down so quick, like overnight. Why? And then I ask myself this question every day I wake up. I'm like, why? And then over the course of the last few months, I have gotten answers. Like, I've seen them. God has shown me answers. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But yeah, I think that's the only way to like make peace with like any shitty situation you go through.
What's the balance of that, right? Like, what's the balance of like, obviously, like, hey, I made this mistake, but now everybody on the internet and like people around me are continuously reminding me of that mistake. And what does that look like in terms of like, hey, I know I am a flawed person. I'm trying to work on those things and I'm trying to work on all my issues, but also giving yourself the grace of like, yo, I'm a person. Like, again, like the whole like flawed person thing, it's a negative and a positive, right?
Yeah.
To understand that like, yo, we're all flawed as people is a understanding that we all need to have, right? Because we are all flawed. We are all continuously making mistakes. But it's also like hey, I want to work on those things, right? Like I want to work on the issues with my mom, and I want to, because whether you have identified the how that impacts you today, it does impact you today.
Yeah.
Right? Like that relationship with your mom leaving at 17.
Oh yeah, 110%. Like, and that's.
Have you identified some of those things in like your own self-reflection and therapy, right? Like it's sort of like, yo, like what are those like issues with my mom and how are they manifesting like today?
Yeah, I've been in therapy for like 6.5 years. Like, you know, like I'm therapized.
Yeah.
Like, but yeah, those issues did come up a lot in my relationship.
Like the issues like with your mom and how they're like manifesting inside your relationship.
And I think that's just human, honestly. Like, everybody has their issues.
People say issues, like everything honestly can probably be related back to some like level of relationship or lack thereof with your parent of some sort, right? Like people's attachment styles, the partner that they choose, right? Like I realized like even in like my dating history, right? I was like, oh, like I date a very specific type of person, maybe not because I'm attracted to that type of person, but because there's something in me that is getting fulfilled by this type of person over and over again. And then when I examined it a little bit further, I was like, oh.
Yeah, that just happened to me.
It's because like, oh, when I was like a kid, like I just needed that type of person, but that's not actually the person that is like best for me.
Or that you're compatible with.
Yeah, right? Yeah. It's the easiest one because my childhood trauma like makes it the easiest one, but it's probably not the person
I don't even know if it's easy, honestly. For me, at least.
It's easy at the start. It's easy at the start, right?
I mean, everything is easy at the start. Yeah.
And that's where the false like sense of comfort comes in.
Yeah.
Right? Like you look at like, I think about like most relationships, it's like, yo, like the first 6 months to 8 months, you're like, yo, this isn't
even just the first years, like
it's like not a real relationship.
I love you so much, like, you know.
It's not a real relationship.
Yeah.
Because people don't realize like real relationships, it's like you don't really know the person until you go through your first major challenge. And I'm not talking about like, oh, this person does this and it annoys me.
Yeah.
I'm talking like a real challenge where you see all sides of people, right? Because people like, again, especially in the era and generation we are now, if we don't like something about somebody, we immediately like just dip from that.
Yeah.
But like real relationships are, it's like, yo, like you got to be here and like really work at this. Yeah. You got to be here. You got to work at it. You got to work on your shit. You got to work on their shit. Both of y'all gonna have shit individually and together to work on.
Yeah.
And unless you have some level of prior foresight on your individual self, you're probably not going to have that all figured out when you walk into a relationship. Right?
You usually don't.
How is that? Because obviously like now, that was a major part of your life. And like, what is your relationship with that part of your life now? Because it is something that obviously has so many silver linings and has gotten you closer to your mom, has probably gotten you closer to your sister, has probably gotten you closer to your own self. So how do you kind of like look at that now? Because obviously there's so much like trauma and negativity around it. But there is also these silver linings that you realize like, yo, like long term, you may not even think about this now, but like long term, this will be better for my life in some way.
I feel like I have been thinking about it that way.
Yeah?
Yeah. I feel like I have gotten to a point where I'm realizing a lot of things for what they are and not what I thought they were.
We kind of buy into our own illusions a little bit.
Yeah.
Like you think something is like what it is, right? And then you know, now months after, right? You're able to look back and be like, was that it? You know, yeah. I think about that every day. I think about that. I'm like, was that
really what I thought it was in the moment? Like, was that, what was that? You know, like, was that love or was that like trauma? Was that like attachment? Was that like, what was that?
That's a scary question. Attachment or love? That's a question that I ask all the time with friends, with family. I think about some things and I'm like, do I love you or are we just attached because we're family? Do I love you or are we just attached in a codependent relationship?
Mm-hmm.
Right? Like that is...
And I don't even think I can define it into just one term. I can't just be like, oh yeah, I was like, that's attachment. Like that's like, and that's what I mean when I say adult relationships are very layered. Like you don't just have one season in an adult, like it's not just like happy or sad or angry. Like it's just, there's a lot. There is a lot that happens in a relationship that not everybody knows about and frankly is not everybody's business.
Do you think that this entire thing has changed your perception of what love is?
Yeah, for sure.
Like, do you think that, like, describe what you thought love was and how you would describe love today?
I feel like I had a very, like, skewed and romanticized and, like, scared perception of love where I was like, I need this thing. Like, I need this love. Like, my life, like, this is the best it's gonna get. This is what I deserve, and my life will be incomplete without this.
Love.
Yeah, just love in general. Just love manifested in whatever it was at the time.
Mm-hmm.
And now I'm like, that's crazy. That's so unhealthy. Like, what? Like, I'm like, I think back to myself and I'm like, what were you, like, or you're not okay. Like,
what is love to you today?
I feel like I'm still kind of figuring it out. But I think love is compromise. Love is not always wanting to be right. Love is not holding grudges and screaming and yelling. Yeah, love is supposed to be understanding, even during the hard times. Love is supposed to be like disagreements that you figure out in a few hours, that you don't let like elongate. Love is not avoidance. Love is being with someone who allows you to honor yourself and love you from far away if need be.
Yeah, I think the romanticized idea of love, which we hold when we're children, which even at 28, we were children, right, is one that we've been sold and fed to by Bollywood movies and rom-coms.
Yeah, that's literally what I thought about. I was like, ruined my life. Like, the Bollywood thing.
Right?
I was talking about it and I was like, Bollywood, like.
Because we have this like idyllic version of love in our minds since we were like kids, or especially like, again, like I'm somebody who may not have seen the versions of love that I now know as an adult that I would be looking for.
It's also like, I used to think like the concept of love is like someone's gonna come and like save me, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And that's bad. That was bad. That's not, like, you gotta save yourself, bro. Like,
and again, like I don't blame most. I think a lot of South Asians probably feel that way because we're not used to the typical South Asian like marriage is not one of love, right? It's usually one of arrangement or like practicalities, right? And so therefore, like when we think about like idyllic love, right, we have this image only fed through us through movies,
like
and
filtered
Bollywood
media
and social media, right? Yeah. Think about it. All those people that were looking at y'all as like, yo, like y'all relationship giving me hope and like all of that, right? It's like that is also through, you're only looking at the lens of our relationship through a filter.
Yeah.
Right? Like you don't know if we're actually the type of relationship that you would want.
Yeah.
Right. And I think that's like important for people to like understand that it's like, yo, like love is tough.
Yeah.
Right. Right. And I think the death of the idyllic version is one that most people have to go through.
Yeah.
Right. And I think like, yo, like honestly, and I don't know if I've shared this to you as a friend, but I want to say that like, yo, I'm so proud of you for still being here. Right. Like people might kill me for this, but like, I think that, yo, like to show up and to not go away takes a certain level of like real strength. Right. And again, like people can say anything that they want about you. Right. But that don't make it true.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Like to be here, to not just go away, to not be defined by a singular mistake, to continue and try to improve. Right. That is the human experience.
Yeah.
Right. And that's something that you should be, like hold your head high. Right. Like the whole like scarlet lettering of people. Right. Like they want you to just like bow your head, be like, oh, I made this mistake. You never gonna hear from me for the next like 40 years. Fuck that. Like honestly, right? You are you, right? And you are still here. You still got real things to take care of, right? You got your family, your friends. You got people who love and care about you. You have a real audience that truly probably still supports you.
Yeah, for sure.
That show you real love, right? And
Yeah.
for them to, and I think that will be hopefully when we talk about this like 5 years from now, we can look at that as a larger silver lining that you were able to show people that like, yo, this is how you can move on from a mistake or move on from something that you thought defined your life. Because it's never that self-defining.
Yeah.
Anything that we're going through at the time, right? Like I'm sure this past year has probably seemed like, oh, this is it. Bro, you have such, God willing, such a long life ahead of you that there's going to be so many more experiences. There's going to be good ones. There's going to be painful ones, right?
Yeah.
And like for that, like, yo, you should be proud that you are still kicking at it.
Thank you, bro. I appreciate that.
Nah, fam, absolutely. So like on that note, like how do you look at your life going forward, right? Like obviously like we keep calling it the post, right? Like as if it's like super
It was the post.
The post. But obviously we have like the post from to now, right? But now like again, like not that like you're done working or done healing, right? But like how do you imagine like your life, and whether it be on the content side, whether it be like your own life going forward, right? Like what can we expect from like Sufi the person going forward?
Yeah, I think in terms of content, like you're definitely gonna see more of me and like who I really am, like the way you know me, like the way my friends know me. And then in terms of like personal life, I do think sometime in the near future, I want to move out of the country. I feel like there's a lot that I can learn and I just like need to explore, and things that I feel like I just am not finding here. And then I'm back working with kids now at the same time, so that's been fun. And I'm taking photos again, and I feel like more myself, honestly. I feel like I really got lost in the sauce, and it was not fun.
It's funny that like you say that, because when we had our conversation in January, right? I couldn't tell you this at the time because we had just met, but I was like, wow, there's something inside of you that was screaming to have individuality almost, that I noticed through our just conversation, which is crazy because at the time, right, like we don't even really know each other.
Yeah.
And I'm like, maybe I'm just wrong, right? Because I remember like I was like, damn, Sufi, like there's like a lot of emphasis on like self, right? And to the point of silver linings, right?
Yeah.
Finding yourself is the biggest silver lining. Finding the things that like you define yourself as, not how other people define you as, right? Those things are a huge silver lining.
Yeah, sometimes you just really have to fall on your face to figure it out.
Sometimes you have to lose your entire self to go discover it again.
Yeah.
Right? The things that are important to you, the things that matter to you, right? Outside of like what people are telling you matter to you.
Yeah.
Or you think should matter to you. Like the things that truly matter to you, like you're now getting to see it.
Yeah.
Bro, this was
insane.
This was insane and tough. But I hope that this was I hope that anybody who's listened to it up to this point has realized, yo, stop annoying Sufi.
Yeah, please stop. I'm tired.
Like, honestly, not like say that. Like,
for real.
honestly,
Like,
say
stop.
that, right?
Like, I'm over. I'm done. Like,
right? Like, yo, like she's still a
like even the person that you're like doing it for, I'm sure doesn't want you to annoy me anymore. So, like, please stop.
And again, like for whatever reason, they think that they have like a hard, like a bigger axe to grind than anybody else. It's like, yo, the person that there should be accountability from, I've given accountability to.
Yeah.
Why am I still continuously offering up myself?
Yeah.
As like,
and there was accountability taken offline as well, right?
That's the part that people aren't gonna realize, right? They think that like, oh, you got this action, we have to now hold you accountable, and we have to like show you all the pain that you concocted. It's like,
no, exactly.
Damn, like I got real accountability.
Yeah, like in real life.
Like I suffered real consequences outside of like, yes, I lost my relationship, but I also suffered real consequences. I lost real friends. I had real nights where I couldn't sleep.
Yep.
Like that part is just like, again, like we can keep preaching.
It's just crazy how people don't think about it that way.
Again, like it's so, I'm telling you, it's like people's like naivete essentially gets them so easily to minimize people.
Yeah.
Right.
That's what
it's easier for them to think about like you not as a person.
Yeah.
Right. Like, cause they don't have to physically interact with you. They don't have to see you anywhere.
Yeah.
It really comes down to like just an image, right? Sufi, I want to say, first of all, thank you for doing this.
Yeah. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely.
I appreciate it.
I do want to leave because I told you this quote before, right? But I want to share this quote because I don't want to fuck it up. So I'm actually like pulling on my phone because I think there's a quote that I want to remind people. And honestly, I just think that it's like something for all of us to keep in mind as we go through. There's a Ted Lasso quote. I hope that either all of us or none of us are judged by the actions of our weakest moments, but rather by the strength we show when and if we're given a second chance. And again, we've talked about it, but like, yo, fam, you are still here. You are not a mistake. You are going to continue, and I believe that you will continue to do great things, right? I'm not even talking about like career-wise. I'm talking life things. You're going to bring joy to your friends. You're going to bring joy to your family. You're going to bring joy to your audience. I know that. Right. And I think it's important for everybody else to remember that. Thank you again.
Thank you.
Absolutely. Yo, thank y'all for listening. Peace.